What about the fact that Jeff Passan reported this week that Brandon Nimmo, and I'm quoting here, can be had in this offseason? Is the possibility of a deal real when it comes to Brandon Nimmo?
Yeah, there's something there. Jeff knows what he's talking about most of the time, or if not all of the time, including this time. That was the word at the GM meetings, that there's been some talks involving Nimmo. There's a long way to go on this. He's a player. A couple things. He has a full no-trade clause, and I can tell you, Garrett, that the Mets have not asked him or his representative if he'd be willing to waive the no-trade clause. So that goes back to the word preliminary. If we're not even there yet, knowing his willingness, then certainly nothing is imminent in terms of trading Nimmo. And the other thing to point out is to zoom out and say it's genuinely the truth that Brandon Nimmo as a human being is beloved at every level of this Mets organization, from Steve and Alex Cohen. David Stearns knows what a great guy he is. Carlos Mendoza appreciates him in the clubhouse. These aren't lockdown reasons why a team keeps a guy. Sometimes it's a cold business, and you look at, like, what are some of the other creative things that we can do as a team. But I guess the way to summarize it would be they love the guy, and they have had some conversations about him, but nothing close.
All right, as I mentioned a moment ago, Todd Zeile is down in Florida in Port St. Lucie. He's at Mets Fantasy Camp, and that's where he joins us from right now at Clover Park down in Port St. Lucie. Good to see you. Todd, I do want to get your take here on Brandon Nimmo and your expectations for him here as we move forward, again, early here in the offseason.
Hey, good to see you, Jansen. Before I start, Gary, I'm going to tell you, I'm coaching with Glendon Rush down here, my buddy, and we're T and G. Well, we're the top guns, so we're having some fun down here. We've got a few wins, but aside from that, my expectation for Brandon Nimmo is to be back in a Mets uniform. I think that this guy wants to stay a lifelong Met. I think it would take a lot of convincing for him to waive that no trade clause, and I think my expectations are for him to continue to do the things that he's done the last couple of years to show why he's such a valuable weapon. He's a good defensive left fielder. The home runs have increased, 20-plus homers last 3 years, 90 RBIs the past couple of years, and he's even stolen 15 and 13 bags the last couple of years too. So he's adding that part of his game. I just think he's also part of the glue that this team needs. I think that was something missing last season, was the glue to hold them all together. So for me, Brandon Nimmo is a Met. I think he's going to stay a Met. It would have to be pretty overwhelming, I think, for him to consider going and for the Mets to consider parting with him.
All right, Keith, piggyback on that, the pros and the cons as you see it of potentially trading Brandon Nimmo.
Well, the cons would be my heart would break, because I love Brandon and I know how important he is to the Mets clubhouse. And that's exactly what Andy touched on, is that you're losing a guy who feels like he is not only a leader in this team, but I know he feels like he's part of the future. When he bought in that 8-year contract, he sat down. I'll never forget this, the trade deadline in Kansas City in 2023 when Steve Cohen flew to Kansas City after they sold off pieces. I remember watching Brandon and Steve have a conversation together in an office, and Brandon wanted to know what the heck's going on here? What is the future? So if you're trading him, you're even talking about this, I wonder how it sits with Brandon, who put some roots down. But the truth of the matter is, the pros would be you probably get a little bit better defensively. Run prevention is the huge phrase that came out of David Stearns' press conference this year, postseason. Brandon didn't cut it really in center field, left field. There's some plays that could have been made there, but you're talking about a guy who is, as Todd said, the glue, heartbeat of this team in certain aspects.
Right, and that's all true. And to that point, quickly, Gary, the reason why that even considered is what you said, Keith. I think that's the key point. When you have Juan Soto in right and you have Brandon Nimmo in left, that's where you think about.
Yeah, that defense lacks a little bit. Todd, do you think the Mets do need to make major changes to the core of this team this offseason?
No, I don't. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. When I say major changes to the core, you've got, to me, the core is Lindor, Nimmo, Alonso, and Soto. If all those guys are back, then I think Beatty is a part of that core. I think you see what you can get out of Vientos. I think there's some moves that can be made on the peripheral part of it. I think Francisco Alvarez going to solidify himself behind the plate. So that core is a core that should score runs, that should have enough offense to get things done. Where I think they need to make moves, obviously on the pitching side, that's a big different story. But I think there was something missing, and I mentioned glue already. I think the Jesse Winker, Iglesias, the guys like Pilar a couple of years ago, those guys hold clubhouses together. I think they hold guys accountable. JD Martinez, another example of that. I think there may be some things under the radar a little bit that may make a difference to this team in the clubhouse and on the field as a collective group, as opposed to making big sweeping changes to the guys that you know are going to put up numbers.
Yeah, intangibles sometimes overlooked, right? They're important to, as you say, Todd, keeping clubhouse together, keeping a team together.